Right. Hi, everyone. So, welcome to the Business of Allied Health series. I'm not going to call it a podcast because it's just attached to my CliniScribe YouTube channel. I have Murray Leyland here. So, we go back a long time. He used to be one of my early mentors when he was an elite sports physio at a soccer team. And at the time, he wasn't running his clinic, but now he runs a very successful and thriving clinic in Newcastle. Welcome, Murray.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is just a quick fire. So how did you start your clinic, or what made you decide to move away from the Mariners, I think it was?
Yeah, so I was working with the Mariners. I really enjoyed my time in professional sport, but we were looking to start a family, and professional sport does not allow your time with family is not always what you get to choose. So I guess running a clinic would allow me to choose my time, hence sort of why I chose. And I chose to sort of start it back up closer to home so that we could stay close to family when we sort of needed that support. So yeah, it's been running 7.5, nearly 8 years now, which is exciting. It took a bit to set up. Not having a lot of collateral to start it up. I did everything, like my father-in-law and me. We laid the flooring. I painted the entire clinic, which was like 2 whole days of me just on a roller painting the ceiling and the walls and everything. And because it was all white, by the end, I was like, I think I'm blind because I could just see white everywhere. And I've just been there from like 7 till 9 p.m. every day, just like rolling up and down, rolling up and down. So, yeah, that's sort of how it started. And from there, it's grown. We've grown from one therapist to now, we have 7 therapists, and we're just about to start building our second clinic. So, yeah,
Uh,
there's been some big transitions over the years.
that's fantastic. So you went from zero to where you're at now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's something to note for sort of the early career people. That sports physio may sound glamorous on the surface, but it may not always be the most practical solution for your life goals. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I loved it, but
Yeah.
we'd have a game in Perth, so you'd leave 5 a.m. Friday and return Monday evening. So like
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd be divorced if I had to leave my 3 children for 4 nights, to my wife alone. So this gives me the freedom to do pick up, to do drop off, to be there on those moments, which sport doesn't allow for me at the moment.
Fantastic. And did you leverage that experience to your clinic today, or was it more superficial?
Yeah, no, I guess I tried to take all those sort of learnings from elite sport and apply them to all the elite athletes we see in the community, because everyone would like to be the next Ian Thorpe or the next Messi, but we're all a little bit slower, fatter, and not as fit for that. But yeah, so I take a lot of those learnings. I guess when I started the clinic, one of my core things had been trying to set up processes and automate it as much as possible so that as we grew, those processes just stayed solid. So we don't have a front desk admin.
Oh, wow.
And after 7 years, we still don't have a front desk admin. We use things like AI to do our phone answering now. We use all the features in Nucal and another program to automate all our reminder texts and various elements like that. So, we have client forms that are done automatically, like online booking. So, within that, a significant amount of our load has been reduced. And I think a comment that lots of therapists who come and work for me is they're always a bit hesitant, thinking they're coming to a clinic with no admin. And, one of the therapists yesterday said to me, like, I can't believe I used to work at a clinic with 3 admin for 5 physios. Like, what were they doing? What were they doing? And, I guess that's just now because our processes are so automated, you know, that's just, two wages back in my pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot around the costs of running a clinic around
Mm,
admin, and I think generally the ratio should be, in
yeah.
theory, like one admin full time to three physios, which
Yeah.
is
And
still expensive.
I
Yep,
would argue now that it probably should be 1 to 5
one to five. Wow.
with effective automation, like a podiatrist friend, and we've just turned them onto a similar AI phone answering system. She's like, I haven't had to hire a staff member, and the minimum wage for a full-time staff member at the moment is like $25 an hour. So that's
Mm.
nearly $1,000 a week. And the
Yeah,
AI costs her 500 a month, so like
yeah.
that's, what, 20 grand savings throughout the year. And this is where, I'm a big fan of like AI automation. It's only as good as what you tell it to be, but if you practice and drill down your processes, you can have a pretty good system in the end.
That's great. Yeah, we might take it to another chat, but
Yeah.
awesome to hear. So what was the biggest challenge you had early on to build your clinic from zero?
I think I faced many challenges, probably just naivety of, build a space and they will come. And there's elements of that to being true. I probably relied on, I felt I built my load quite well. And then I just relied on sort of, if I keep leading the way, then my staff will follow in my footsteps. And whilst I did clinical mentoring, I probably didn't do enough behavioral and I don't want to say marketing with patients, but that ability to sell yourself, sell your treatment, and sell your skills to your patient, as opposed to just knowing the diagnosis is patellofemoral pain. So that's probably been something I've changed over the recent years, and that has been reflected in improved patient retention, which means better outcomes for patients because they're getting to that finish line more regularly. And that's also resulted in improved skills for clinicians because they're seeing patients throughout the whole span of their injury, as opposed to like, oh, I only see backs for 2 weeks and then they always fall away. So I'm not actually good at end stage rehab for an ACL or a back. And so, yeah, that's improved their skills and also that, their how happy they are and content with actually doing their job because they're having less dropout and that. So, yeah, I guess a big thing I've changed over my years is spending a lot more time not just educating on diagnostic accuracy skills, but also the language you have to use within the consult that improves rapport, retention, and like follow-on referrals.
That's fantastic. I mean, we've had some great conversations around this in that financial metrics only measure probably the after effect of what's happened.
Yeah.
And just as a disclaimer, Murray's a CliniScribe user,
Mm.
customer, and he's an advisor in our product area around what we're moving forward with. And behavioral coaching is an absolutely huge part. And the question there will become, how do we measure that? And, how do we look
Yeah, so
deeper?
we
Mm.
use CliniScribe. We have an automation in there that it will give therapists a score. It's not a score.
Yeah.
It sort of listens to the raw transcript and assesses them on, their ability to develop rapport, how accurately they summarize treatment plans. And this is all based off research articles that have been
Oh, well.
published in terms of what patients' expectations for a consult are. And, it's interesting because you think you do all these things, then you'll click that button and it spits out, the prompts. And it also spits out, keyword suggestions to change. And you can see, sometimes I nailed it and sometimes it was half and half. And then, when that person doesn't show up for their second or third appointment, we can look back and go, okay, well, maybe we didn't actually hit some of those key metrics that, meet patient expectations and therefore improve rapport, which improves adherence, which improves, their outcome.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, no, it's a really powerful tool, even for someone more experienced. But sometimes
Mm.
we do slack off, and we're
Yeah.
like, well,
Yep.
what happened there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the best.
No, you get busy and you fall into
Yeah,
quick habits,
yeah,
that aren't
you
always
do.
effective habits.
You do. So it's a great reflective tool
Mm.
and, understanding where you can continuously improve. So what's one key metric, if it was just one that you'd love to measure in your business, or you already do that really gives you visibility?
Yeah. So I've done business coaching for a long time and been in various circles. There are a lot of metrics people track. I guess for me, the two metrics we track are patient visit average and cancellation without rebooking rate, because people cancel and rebook all the time. But I want to know the ones that just cancel with the, I'm busy, AKA I'm not happy in the service and I'm not coming back because I don't see the value in my next session. So those are the two metrics we track. I've tracked others, but they tend to be the ones that I find powerful. And, I speak to my staff about them because those metrics for me are the numbers that I can track, but they inform me of behavior. So if we have therapists whose cancellation rates are increasing and increasing, obviously you'll have, blips, which is fine. We don't worry about that. But, when we see consistent trend of that, we need to have a conversation about, what's happening. Have you just had a run of the wrong, B, C grade patients, or are we not doing the things that we know will improve their satisfaction and their outcomes, and how can we dial down on that? And that's always that sort of behavioral coaching I was speaking about, as well as like clinical assessment. Sometimes they might have slightly missed the most accurate diagnosis and therefore haven't got to the endpoint as quickly and as efficiently as they could have.
Fantastic. I like what you said there around that C grade type of patient. So sometimes you need to reflect on yourself whether you're actually attracting that ideal profile to your clinic.
Yeah.
So you can't always blame the clinician, right?
And every clinic knows there's
Yeah.
people who spend 30 minutes on the phone booking in, they turn up 5 minutes late, they expect everything
Yeah.
and still don't want to rebook or pay. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, you know,
Well,
and you can, you know, the 5% of that population, I don't know, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but if you just keep doing that, then just everything falls down around them. So sometimes you've got to cut them loose.
No, that's interesting. So last question here is, what's one unpopular lesson that you've learned as a business owner or allied health clinic manager that you don't hear, that advice in social media, for example?
An unpopular lesson.
Unpopular, unfiltered.
I think, it's probably a lesson people are aware of in terms of like staff can be your, single sense of greatest joy and, greatest frustration at the same time. And so I think, clinic owners and for people going into business, spending time on your staff is important, but also like if they're crap, just cut them loose. Like, just, like you can spend hours, weeks, months propping someone else up in the hope they will turn it around. But a sinking ship just tends to sink and drag people down. So, yeah, I guess the learnings I have had is cut them loose. Just if they're not working for you, there's other fish in the sea.
Awesome.
And that might sound cruel and unpopular and heartless to a struggling therapist who's struggling with many things, but we can only control our work environment and make people hopefully satisfied within their work environment. But you will have staff who are struggling outside of work, and it's easy to blame work because that is something easy and they can try and change work, but often what they need is more change in their own home and themselves. So, when those people are just difficult at work, I think it's just easier to part ways.
And how much time do you generally give someone an opportunity to?
Well, yeah, I guess I say this, like I am the master of letting people go straight away. Probably more I say this sitting here now, having made the mistake of, several hires, probably just propping them up for far too long. And then you look back and think, should have just done that 6 months ago because I've put in hours and hours and hours of work to help you and support you and do the various things that you were asking. And then in the end, you've left to go down the road for an extra $1 an hour. And it's like, I appreciate everyone has their own life to live and I'm not, they need to do what's best for them. And I support that. So, yeah, I think in the future, I will be less lenient to, those sort of timeframes, but it depends. Some people have a lot of runs on the board that you would support them through difficult times, depending on what it needs. And some people don't have a lot of runs on the board in the clinic that you need to be like, okay, there might be someone else who's going to come in and score a century, in their first inning, as opposed to, you keep getting out for ducks. So, yeah, can we move on?
Yep. So would you say the philosophy of hiring slowly, fire fast is relevant?
Yeah, and like I know that philosophy, but like, you make emotional choices.
You do at the time.
And like I'm sure anyone who listens to this has probably sat in the same situation thinking, I can get them better. I can help them. They can get back to their best. And then in 6 months, you're like, I can still help them. I can get them back to their best.
Might be that physio rehab mindset in there kicking in.
Yeah, we're just fixers. Like we see the best in everyone and we see their potential and we want them to reach that potential. And that's why I love being a physio and I love working with physios, because I truly do think we find the best in people and we try and bring that out. Just sometimes in staff, the square pegs, square holes, and just can't jam it in. Just move on.
All right, thanks, Murray. Thanks for those great insights. I absolutely loved it, and I'd love to continue on with some of the things we're cooking up in the future.
That's good. But I look forward to those.
Thanks for your time, Murray, and we'll talk soon.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.